Do not see that the Islamic Republic of Iran is a fascist theocratic dictatorship is intellectually lazy at least. Therefore, it is important to understand that the recent history of Iran has been marked by imperialism, which gave us both the Pahlavi and Islamic Republic brutal regimes. I will never abandon my belief in the right of the Iranian people for self determination. And unfortunately, chaos is a ladder, an opportunity for some to seize power and resources. Just because some are leeching onto the circumstances, it doesn't mean that the situation is complicated and hard to understand. And also that we can't stand for the thousands of Iranians and other ethnic groups that are suffering right now as we speak by the hands of the regime. I can't stop thinking about this quote from the graphic novel Persepolis, which says that as long as there's oil in the Middle East, there will never be peace. I do believe that Iranians deserve more than just a change of repressive administration. I do believe it is unfair for Iranians to be forced to choose between a fascist, corrupt, far right, undemocratic monarchy or a fascist, corrupt, undemocratic, theocratic dictatorship. In this special episode, we're having a conversation with Iranian Swedish-born activist and illustrator Dana Orkideh about the uprising in Iran. Born in Sweden, child of political refugees, her work often focuses on portraits of historic women. All the information being shared in this episode has been reported by organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, confirming that the Iranian regime is committing massacres not only against protesters but also against relatives and just bystanders. They are committing a massacre. I don't want to call it an interview because I think people often forget that we are talking about humans, that this
Mm-hmm.
is not just a baseball like match. This is not just about teams. Thank you so much for wanting to talk to me. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate that you're taking time to do this, especially with everything that's happening right now. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And I just want to start by like just asking you,
Mm-hmm.
I know we have already talked about it in private. How are
That
you
is true.
feeling?
Honestly, I feel numbed at this point because after so many days of not knowing anything about my remaining relatives in Iran, it's really hard not to know how to feel. It's like you just waiting whenever whenever they're alive or dead. I mean, I just want just one signal from them, emoji or anything on Instagram DMs, or every time I sharing on Instagram stories, just so I can see if they're online or not.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing. And it's been over 300 hours since the regime shut everything down. And the only media who had access to it is the state channels. And they are not telling anything.
No, of course not. They're not. I know those 300 hours. That's like around how many days? Like 13, 15 days without internet.
Around 13 days.
Around 13 days without internet, and a lot of the information, as you have explained, is also being very limited about what's happening in Iran right now. Like something that because it's not only it's mainly in Tehran what's happening.
Yes.
the demonstrations and the repression. Like there's like it's a complete blackout. I know that I've seen that there's some people that manage to travel to the border briefly to
Yes, to
somehow
Turkey.
access to some sort of communication ways, but that we all know that's Iran is a huge country, and that's like the huge minority that can do that, because it's not only the internet blackout, it's also there's no freedom of movement at all.
Yeah.
Also, we know that even organizations like Amnesty International, they are reporting very limited information about what's happening. So when was the last time you talked or you had any communication from your loved ones that are still in Iran? How what was some of the last things that they describe about what they
Um,
could
the
see?
the last time I heard anything from one of my cousins, she wrote something. It was a very cryptic message on her Instagram stories. I couldn't fully understand, but I saw her trying to leave Tehran. There was a short video of her driving away with her son.
Mm-hmm.
But I dare not contacting her directly because I was afraid if I try doing this, may being paranoid as I am, they can they could get her because it's not the first time the regime actually arrests people for talking politically to someone outsiders. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very fragile, and not to mention the meta hasn't been exactly helpful. Instead, they have rather, in one way, enabled the regime.
What do you think is different this time from the previous times that the Iranian regime has used technology as a way to censor? What is different about this time? Because
I think
yeah,
difference
according to
is,
you.
according to myself, this is a bit tricky, but I'm going to give a try. Iran has quite lately been taking help from China, as we
Mhm.
already know that China is very good at shutting down any dissent voices, no matter what. It doesn't
Yes.
matter if criticism is legitimate or not. So I think they've been using Huawei technology to shut down any form of criticism, but also the fact that I had found out that somehow the regime will open up the internet, but only few will get access to it, and
Mhm.
they have to sworn the loyalty to the regime. It's becoming, I don't know, more like, I don't know, North Korea.
Yes.
It's pretty hard to predict at the moment, but if that's the plan, then oh my fucking god.
I know Democracy Now! And Amnesty International has reported that
Yeah.
the numbers of people who have been assassinated by the regime are around 5,000, 6,000. But we have talked about this in private, that you mentioned that those are very conservative figures that aren't that they're not part of reality.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because so they can say one thing and then completely manipulates the whole thing. That's a problem with the regime. They're not there is no transparency at all, and by the complete digital shutdown, you cannot really find out how many people who had been killed in total. It's almost impossible. So right now, when most human rights organization says around 5,000, because they
Yes.
cannot find anything to verify, but they have seen the bodies. They have seen uh, dead people on black backs, and
Yes.
shoes everywhere.
what word would you use to describe what's happening in Iran? Will you call, because I've seen some like mainstream media call it just demonstrations or protests, or will you call it a revolution? How would you describe it?
Um, this is a bit hard, but in the last 2 weeks, it has started as an uprising because
Hmm.
shortly before Christmas, the owners, the bazaars, the people at the bazaar who sells goods and all that, they could no longer sell anything to their clients because the prices has been skyrocketing. And it
Hmm.
had only got worse after the 12 days war between so-called Israel and Iran.
Hmm.
and the currency, Toman, Rial in Iran is a complete disaster. You can you can barely buy anything anymore. And those, for example, and those people who managed to contact their families, they had to pay tons of money for just a
Yes,
few minutes call.
it's so horrible, so horrible, and especially when there's a huge like Iranian diaspora also. Something that people tend to forget is that Iran is a big country, and Tehran,
Mhm.
around 10 million people live in Tehran. Around
Around
10 million
12,
people,
but yes.
12, around 12 million people live in Tehran. And in the metropolitan area, if I'm not mistaken, is like seven, counting the metropolitan area is like 17 million.
Something like that.
Yes.
I forgot the exact number.
I want to ask you now, can I think uprising, it's the word that we're going to use forward while we discuss this. I hope it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay because it's hard to tell if Iran becomes another revolution or not due to the current massacres, but hopefully it becomes a revolution. But for now, uprising.
What are some misconceptions that people have about this uprising that is happening in Iran right now, according to you?
The biggest misconception is that so many people online has made the assumption that everyone who is on the streets are I don't know, Mossad agents or what the fuck that is. But many came out protesting, and it's not just because financial struggles, it's because of systematic oppressions for over like 47 years of oppression. When everything becomes too much, you can barely breathe, you can barely survive. Sooner or later you would explode. It doesn't matter what political thinkings you have. If you're hungry, you're thirsty, you don't know what the future you will have. I mean, there's even an article from the Guardian who had been interviewing people from different angles. And they're not
Mhm.
monolith. Everyone came out on the street for different reasons, but one reason is clear, and it's that they just had enough.
Like, Iran is a theocratic, ethno-nationalist,
Yes,
fascist regime that
exactly.
does not only oppresses women but also oppresses ethnic minorities. And now that we're going to that point, like when the on the wake of Masa Amini's demonstrations and protests and the start of the women life and freedom movement, it wasn't only because she was a woman, it was because of her ethnicity, because she was also Kurdish
Kurdish.
Iranian, right?
Speaking about women life freedom, it was actually originated by Kurdish movements, partly from Öcalan. So
Hmm.
women life freedom was way much older than in 2022, but it was definitely a start in Saqqat, which is in Kurdistan, where Gina Amini were buried because she was originally from over there, but she was killed in Tehran by morality police. That is
Mhm.
also another thing that need to be mentioned. Yes,
So
she was Kurdish.
there's this element. And something that the regime does is that they sell this symbolic representation of Kurds in the parliament, but it's symbolic. It doesn't mean anything. It's the same
Exactly.
thing. It's the same thing when Palestinians have the symbolic representation in so-called Israel. It doesn't in the parliament. It doesn't mean anything. It's just symbolic.
Yeah.
So that's something that people really don't understand. What other like misconceptions do you think people like have about the Islamic regime and also the uprising that is happening?
Oh, this is hard, but
Yeah,
let me try. Another misconception is the fact that so many assume that everybody wants the monarchy back. But if you go to the Kurdish activists, the Baluchi activists, the Arab activists, and the leftist Iranians, you will see that regardless of what they think of Islamic Republic regime, not everyone has the same views of what the future Iran should be in the first place. Yes, unfortunately, the monarchists are a very loud one, and they have access to many oppositional media channels, and they have lots of money and influences. But at the end of the day, when it comes to fight against the Islamic Republic, not everyone has the exact same goal of what Iran's gonna be after after eventual fall of the regime, hopefully in this year. But then again,
in order for us to understand the rise to power of the Pahlavi family, which by the way is a very recent monarchy, we need to remember the Prime Minister of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, who was overthrown by a coup d'etat in 1953, orchestrated by the United Kingdom and the United States because of him nationalizing the Iranian oil industry. He was replaced by Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, having almost absolute power. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi became the last Shah of Iran in 1941. His regime was marked by extreme repression of civil liberties, cult to personality, lavish spending by the Iranian royal family, as well as a very brutal and intricate intelligence agency that was used to repress. You mentioned the Pahlavi family and the monarchy, and Reza Pahlavi, this is my perception, and I want you to feel in the right to correct me if I'm wrong, was
okay.
that before this uprising, he was kind of sort of this figure that people would wouldn't pay that much attention to him.
I think I need to explain that part.
Yeah,
It's a bit complicated, but
thank you.
during the last 10 years, he's been coming out more publicly
Mhm.
on social media and the media channel. And yes, he has been mentioning that he has no plan to take over Iran after eventual fall of regime. But the thing is, this is my perspective. I cannot speak for everyone else.
No,
Is
of
that
course.
Ayatollah Khomeini said similar thing when the French journalist decades ago interviewed him. He said himself, Ayatollah Khomeini, that he was not going to take over and he will let referendum take its place. The problem was that even before referendum took its place, he basically took over
Yes.
everything. And that is why I don't really trust Reza
Mhm.
Pahlavi, because he suddenly said similar thing as Ayatollah Khomeini did decades ago. So yes,
Mhm.
people may call me paranoid, but due to its history, when certain leaders make such promise like that, it rarely ever, I don't know.
Yeah. I always saw him as this like rich kid
Yeah.
who is waiting to go back to this, who sees Iran as something that is rightful his, who was taken from him.
Mm,
And maybe now he's using more like diplomatic words, but he, I think this is my perception, maybe I'm wrong. What you say comparing him with Khomeini is a perfect description, because he's also taking advantage of the situation in a way, and he's selling the same promises, and he's
mm-hmm.
also I've seen a few of his interviews and speeches, and I feel that he's taken advantage of the desperation of the people. I totally agree with you, and he also is counting on the support of, in Western imperialist power, the same way that
Yes.
the regime also relies on the support of other imperialist powers. What's the best thing we can do to help Iranians? Like,
First and foremost, um, make reaching out many politicians across to begin
mhm,
with, not not just the hashtag digital blackout Iran, but to make sure to put the pressure on the regime to open up the internet again, because that
mhm,
part is the most crucial one. And the second one, demanding a complete shutdown on embassies everywhere, because they have their agents. They have been harassing many dissidents.
mhm,
Historically, Iranian embassy has been nothing but bullies, in short. So therefore, those are the two things that everyone could actually do, and also connect, try connect with activists who had for a long time been in contacts with the grass movements in Iran before the digital blackouts.
mhm.
So in that way, not only monarchists gets their own narrative.
Yeah, I'm gonna share those resources I have a share with me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know what you're feeling right now. I'm doing my best to
Mm-hmm.
be as sympathetic towards you, because at the end of the day, we're talking about humans, um, about people who are right now fighting for some sort of agency, self determination, and freedom. Of course,
Yeah.
Iranians deserve that. And it's really, I personally find it extremely disgusting that there are people that are just taking advantage of the situation because they see chaos as an opportunity. And also, another thing, keep an eye on Iranian refugees, because they always take advantage of situations like this, the West, to deport refugees. I
Mm.
know the Swedish migration authorities tried to deport this Iranian girl.
Yes.
Disgusting, fucking disgusting, and they're gonna keep doing it, and they're gonna keep doing it. Let's see what happens. My heart is with, oh God, Iranians, and thank you so
Yeah.
much for talking to me.
Thank
I
you.
think